Yep. So it's 5 o'clock and I would love us to be on time. We have super interesting content. So hi, Juliet. So we will still continue letting people in, but please note that we're recording this webinar as well. So as it's 5 o'clock, I think we could start the recording. And yeah. Are we okay? Yes, we're good to go. Okay. So hi everyone, and warm welcome to this joint event organized by Mothers in Business International and International Working Women of Finland on the topic of boosting your job application. My name is Henrika Tonder, and today I'll be your host and the voice for your questions during the next hour. And first of all, please note that, as I said, the event is being recorded. During today, we'll be speaking about how to write a remarkable application for a corporate position, how to learn about best practices of corporate job hunting, and learn how to stand out to the hiring manager. And for those of you who are new to Mothers in Business, let me share a few words about who we are and what we do. Maybe if we could have the next slide, Caroline. So Mothers in Business is a nationwide network that supports educated and career-oriented mothers in balancing work and family. And our aim is to provide opportunities for skill development, networking, and career advancement. Currently, we have over 4,000 members and hundreds of volunteers throughout Finland. And Mothers in Business stand for a genuinely inclusive and diverse work and life culture. Our volunteer-driven organization now also works to integrate international mothers into the Finnish working society and giving them equal chances at balancing family and career in an understanding and empowering environment. Please feel free to ask your questions as we go. We have planned to do our best to answer them all along the presentation rather than keeping them all for a separate Q&A session at the end. So today's agenda, without further ado, please meet Caroline Bondier, Director of Process Development at KONE, and Marina Ponomareva, Talent Expert and Program Manager at the Entry Point Mentoring Program at Helsinki Region Chamber of Commerce. The stage is yours, ladies.
Thank you very much, Henrika, for the introduction, and very happy to be with everyone today. I'm quite amazed to see the amount of participants, so I hope that we will have a good session for you today. Let me tell you a little bit about my journey in Finland. So my journey in Finland actually started in France. I had my Erasmus studies that were proposed to me to be in Valkeakoski, Finland. I had no idea where Finland was, or much less where Valkeakoski was. But anyway, I thought it was a nice opportunity to go abroad, and I took the chance. It went well. So I did actually complete my bachelor's degree in the end in Finland. And well, after that, you know, there was an interesting period because we didn't have any sort of like contact to the work life during the studies. And I didn't realize at all that how things work in Finland. So what are you supposed to do to even get a job? I just assumed, you know, I got a degree, so I will get a job. Very wrong assumption. So I had a very rude awakening after I completed my bachelor's degree. They were dramatic experiences with two different companies actually that were a bit like fake companies, so I didn't get paid, and there was like this whole mess. I was unemployed for a bunch of months, too much in my taste, and then you know, I was sending like hundreds of CVs left and right, which I've learned since then was not maybe the best strategy. So it was a difficult time after the graduation, and I really needed to work. So I thought, okay, I leave the country. That's the only option. But at the 11th hour, I actually got a temporary contract with CITEC in a field that had nothing to do with my studies. But then one contract led to the next and the next and the next. And after a bunch of like small contracts, I realized that I actually quite enjoyed the work, even though it wasn't related to my field of study. And I started to, you know, grow in the company and have like the more interest for it. In those days, I was based in Tampere, but I realized that, if I want to have a different career option, it's maybe best to move to Helsinki. So I started to plan that move. And at the same time, I started to do my MBA studies at Hagaelia. So in the middle of the studies, I actually managed to move to Helsinki, still with CTEC. But I thought that, okay, this is not for me anymore. I don't have the career prospects, though it was a lovely company, to be honest. So I thought that I want to apply to other job, and one company that I really would want to work for is Kone. So before I started to sending CVs everywhere again, I said I will select one position from Kone. I will make sure that I get that one. And actually the only position I applied for, I did end up getting. So outside of the CTEC, there was only one option for me, and it was Kone. 6 months recruitment process, 6 interviews and tests, very long. But in the end, it was worth it. And I've been now fortunate enough to be with Kone for 9 years. I believe in continuous learning. So I've been doing also some additional, kind of like a small degree in INSEAD last year. This year, I'm also doing the Green Belt certifications for Lean Six Sigma. And I'm quite active also in the volunteer work, 4 years now with the Finnish Red Cross and 1 year with the International Working Women of Finland, which I all encourage you to join. And I think that's a great opportunity then to network and also integrate in the society. So I encourage volunteer work. And today with me is Marina. So Marina, the floor is yours as well.
Thank you, Caroline. And by the way, thanks Henrika, Rosa, and Caroline yourself for inviting me. I would say it was no-brainer because the topic is so nice. So kind of like why you should listen to me while me not being like an official hiring manager. Well, first of all, I'm quite a dedicated job seeker. And I'm this weird person who likes geeking out about job search. So while many people really hate this topic, I really like it. And then also comes like from a personal motto. I really like helping others experience success. And like I said, being a job seeker, I know how painful it can be and how lost you might feel. So like that's one of the things that definitely would like to clarify today. And like more professionally, so I started my, like I would say, like path where I'm from. I'm from Moscow, Russia, but I also lived in other 4 countries. And now I call Helsinki my second home. I always wanted to live abroad, but I never saw that I'll end up in Finland. But when I was doing my double degree in parallel with Russian one, I went to the Netherlands, and there I met my Mr. Right, who happened to be from Finland. And at some point after like doing my master's in Switzerland, I decided that, yeah, maybe we should just finally end up in one country. And that's how I ended up here. So my path also like from companies has been quite corporate. I started in IT world, like at Crayon, software licensing, very complicated business. I was doing operational and program management support. Then I was discovered on LinkedIn by a recruiter and was offered an opportunity to try out as a project assistant at Nordic Investment Bank. Like having grown up and seen my mom working in a bank, I used to think like never ever I will work in a bank, but never say never. So that's how I ended up there. And then when I felt like it was time for more challenges for me, I discovered an opportunity and I actually applied, and that's how I got the job at Helsinki Chamber of Commerce on the project that they're running specifically for international talent. So kind of like parallel in my professional and personal paths together very well. And my main areas is matchmaking events and entry point mentoring program. And last but not least, I also volunteer just like Caroline, just like in a bit different society. So it's society that connects young entrepreneurs and startup communities together. Also check it out. So Access Helsinki. So thank you for the floor.
Thanks, Marina. All right, so I mean, there's hundreds of seminars out there and stories about, how to get a job in Finland. So I'm not going to give any miracle pill today that doesn't exist or miracle recipe. I personally believe that it's really about hard work, smart choices, and being very persistent. And I think in that sense, what we will try to give today as a perspective is of course like our own. It's very, let's say, personal for me as a hiring manager to say what I'm looking for into candidates. So I don't pretend to have the universal truth. It's just like how I'm perceiving the candidates when I'm recruiting and what I'm expected in them. And also we'll try to go full chain, meaning that we are going to start with what to do before you even start applying, all the way to how to handle actually rejections. So trying to give you like a full picture and also a few sources and insights where to find more information, because we have, of course, like a very limited time. Rule number one can never be emphasized enough, especially in Finland: network, network, network. I put here a few sources. It's just really the tip of the iceberg. There is much more than that, but definitely there is this old saying that in Finland, 80% of the jobs are actually on the hidden market. So without a network, of course, you can get a job. I did, but it's not going to be necessarily very sustainable in the long run, and might be also even difficult to get that first job to begin with. So it's a lot about networking and getting the right connections. And we tell along the presentation why and how you can leverage that network. I'm not going to say how to build the network. I think there is a lot of resources about that on the internet. So I encourage you to go and search and research about it. But I'm not going to open up about that. I'll just say more like how do we leverage these networks and why they are important. Then about the application process. Why did I say yes to Mother in Business when they proposed the idea to do a joint event when we started this journey? Is simply because in my humble experience, I still see about 90% of application or applicants which are not up to at least my standards. So I just want to share the honest truth. And again, just my version of events. I'm not saying I know everything and anything, but it's just that's how I'm seeing it. And I've been processing, give or take, 500 applications since I've joined Kone. I've been involved, of course, in my own recruitments for my own team, but also for other teams. And it's really difficult actually to find the very good applications. So what does it mean for me, a good application? So first of all, prepare to apply. You can't just start applying tomorrow for a job. I know you know that already and it's obvious, but sometimes I think it's not so evident when we're looking at the applications. And I think one part of the application, which is not something you actually literally send to the recruiter, is your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn has been, I think, totally changing the recruitment world in the last maybe 10 years. And at least that for me, that's a great tool as a hiring manager. I'm always looking at LinkedIn profile, perhaps even more so than CVs and cover letters, because it tells so much. And I think there what's really important is to focus on skills and recommendations. Even if you don't have a whole lot of experience, it's fine. Ask from your professors, ask from students that you have been doing assignments with at the school, and definitely like build up that skills and recommendation part. It's very important. So not friends and families, people you've actually been doing something with, but I see way too many often LinkedIn profiles where there's no such things. Then I would say to really avoid the laundry list syndrome. That's how I call it. It's when there is just, a list of jobs and then there's a list of universities or degrees, but nothing is connected together. There's no explanation. You're just kind of like seeing a laundry list, basically. And that doesn't tell much about the person. So it's good to write what has been learned in the experiences. Then I think, especially in Finland, important is like building the personal brand. Also, a lot of resources out there on the internet about how to do that. And I know it's difficult, but it's worth spending the time doing it. And be active in posting, commenting, or writing articles, meaning that just putting likes in the LinkedIn, that's nice, of course, but that's not really engaging with the community. So you really need to like force yourself. It's hard, I know, to figure out what is it that I can tell that will interest the people, but you have to try to do that and also like follow people that inspire you and comment on their post, engage with them, ask them questions, and then if you can, write articles, participate in podcasts, something like that. I could talk about LinkedIn profiles for 3 hours, but we don't have that time. So I put for you a few examples that you can then come back to in the recording and check out those profiles. I think they are very good structured profiles, and also these guys are like very engaging in the community. I don't know, Marina, if you want to add something about the LinkedIn as well. Do you agree with those principles?
Just very quickly, Caroline, that I really also, like, as a job seeker and also the person who checks LinkedIn profile as thoroughly as you, like when I get applications to the program, I'm very much like surprised how people like underestimate and downplay it, because, you know, this is so much more than your cover letter and CV. It's like your own world, it's your page, and kind of like make it shine. So I just want to say that, like, I second what Caroline says. So, and like those strategies that you said, sometimes maybe commenting is enough, because I know it can be very, how can I say, overwhelming to post the content, but if you're commenting, you're still very visible. It's a very powerful strategy, like for beginners.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
That's good. And we have a question coming in here. Also, you talked about the personal branding. Someone is asking, it would be nice if you could talk about what things comprise building your brand. Maybe if you have a couple of ideas that you could just give here that you think are important in terms of building your brand.
Yeah, I mean, I think you really have to consider it the same way that a company would build their brand strategy. I mean, it really is the same. It's about being recognizable, being identifiable, and finding a theme. Or if you guys are like on Instagram, for instance, they often say, you know, go with one theme. And I think with the LinkedIn, it's a little bit the same. So in that sense, like you can build hashtags, but you have to find what's your story. What is the thing that is going to differentiate you from others? If we take Lukumanu example, for instance, he's really having this great follow-up now from a lot of people in LinkedIn, because he's giving tips to international job seekers, and he does it very well. So in that sense, he's built his hashtag and he's sharing around, and some of his posts, they get like 800, you know, likes and stuff. So I think it's really about finding that what is it that you want to talk about, and how is it that you want to portray yourself. For instance, my brand is excellence ideologies, because I love operational excellence. It's my thing. It's my passion, and that's something that I like to be recognized at, not just, you know, my company or my title, but my, you know, way of my brand, basically, of way of being.
Well, that's a great thing. Maybe just one question already to ponder and think about, like, what do I want to be recognized as? And what differentiates me? Maybe those are hopefully useful ideas that they can start thinking about.
Yeah. But again, a lot of sources around that on the internet. So really advise you to go and check out. This is quite important, I think. Then targeting and researching the companies. I think that's really crucial. And I've been speaking with more people in Finland than I can dare to say when it comes to this one. Many of the people who get successful in their job applications, they have actually really done targeting when it comes to the companies. So make a list, attend all events related to these companies, mingle with the experts who are in those companies. Online is perfectly doable as well, and follow the experts that you aspire to be. I find actually people relatively approachable in Finland. Like if you just, you know, if you are, I don't know, you are a marketing communication expert or something, you can connect with other marketing experts, not asking for a job or anything, but just connect and share interests and discuss things. So I think that's super important, and especially if those people are in the companies where you aspire to work, then learn anything you can about these companies. I think that is super important. And if you're still in school, then one advice would be to make your assignments also about these companies. I've had many applicants actually that are saying in their cover letters or during the interviews that, well, I'm really passionate about Kone because I've done a couple of assignments about it during my school time, and I really appreciate, you know, the values, or I appreciate this marketing strategy or whatever it is. So I think that's also a good way to start already from the time that you are in the school, and not make the mistakes that I did, for instance. Why is it important also to target? Is because honestly, like as a hiring manager, I don't want to hear people anymore say I've applied everywhere and anywhere and I will do everything and anything, because that doesn't really make us feel special. But if you say I want to come to Kone because of this and that reason, then it's already a completely different angle. So I understand you need to put food on the table. I've been there, and probably you will in a way also apply everywhere and anywhere because you need to get a job. But the dream company is the one where you really want to get into and build a career, then they should be the ones that are special to you for a specific reason.
Yeah, so thank you for that. That's really useful. And I think also, like, one can think about it as a relationship, as another person. Like, you want to get interested in the other person to create a connection and a relationship. And maybe it can sometimes make it a little easier to think about it as, okay, I want to learn to know this company.
Yeah.
It was another person, and then get interested.
Exactly. And I think especially with COVID, there is an opportunity because there has been so much online webinars from pretty much any company in Finland, or every company, sorry. So there is really a lot of opportunities to learn about them. So I think that's important, and it's a lot of work. I understand that, but I think it can really pay off in the end. Then leverage your network in a smart way. So, like I said, network is going to be a big theme in this presentation today. So I think it's super important. So you've targeted the companies, you started to ask the experts, you know, can I connect? Can I talk with you? Can we discuss? What do you think about this trend? Whatever it is, you know, commenting on their post or contacting them directly. And I think that, for instance, in my case, I have been with iWolf, of course, connected to a lot of people on LinkedIn. And, you know, they just, oh, we are from iWolf and let's connect. So I've never met these people, never seen them, but every now and then I've got someone who will send me a message that say, for instance, in this case, well, I've applied to a certain position at Kone and I would be interested to discuss with you, you know, about your experience, how to be hired in Kone. So this person's not asking me a job, they're not asking me for a recommendation or like, you know, special insider tips that how they land the job compared to somebody else. But it's a very nice, like, you know, soft approach that I, of course, respond to always. So I'm not saying now 82 people need to start sending me messages on LinkedIn, but at least someone that I've already have some kind of connection with, I'm always happy to help. And I think some of them are even in this call today. The thing that I will never respond to is sending your CV and then just like we've never met or we barely met from like some kind of Facebook group or whatever. And then you're asking for a job. In corporate world, that's rarely going to work. If you're a developer in a startup, that might be a totally different story. But in the corporate world, I don't think that's really the way to go. So it's more about, you know, asking for advice and insights than just like randomly sending your CV to everybody, because that's, sorry to say, that looks a bit like desperate and a bit rude as well. That's my humble view. I don't know, Marina, how you feel about that one.
I think that it's a very good point that you brought up, Caroline. I mean, I call that kind of like strategic informational interview, where you only ask the person for an information. And I think I really like the message that, you know, on the screen now as an example. I think it's, you know, it's good. I would maybe add, and how I was doing it, like in the past, that maybe a person could say something nice about you. For example, like if they've been following you, or kind of, you know, to create a connection. So it's not like they spray into anyone who works at Kone,
yeah,
but they're very much like looking for their Caroline at Kone, and they know that you've been, for example, active in the like your community and things like that, if you know what I mean. So.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, it's a very good approach. And yeah, it's very important, like really don't kind of like make people intimidated by asking anything, because they don't know you, you kind of like, you haven't built that connection.
Yeah, definitely.
A very good point. Because I don't, yeah, sorry, Henrik.
Here in the meantime, maybe someone has their mic open.
Yes.
Because I hear some background noise. So if everybody could just check that you have your mics turned off so that the recording will be of good quality for afterwards as well. Thank you.
Good. Then, of course, comes the part of the CV. So there is already a Mother in Business clinic on the 11th of December. So I'm not going to say very much about this. Just one thing, like, again, from my personal perspective, the looks matter. I'm sorry to say, I know many people disagree, but for me, it really matters. So 1 or 2 pages is enough. I would say if you have worked less than 10 years, 1 page is really the maximum that you should have. And when I still receive to this day 8 pages CV, like literally 2 months ago, I can't understand. Sorry to say, but no, you have to keep it short. Then you have to be mindful about this ATS compatibility. So I'm not super familiar with this because at Kone, at least I have never done that for recruitment, but I've been told by HR colleagues from other companies that this can happen. So you should have one version which you can upload to the applications. And then if it's a job where somebody has asked you to send a CV, you know, like send a CV to my friend or pass me the CV, I'll give it forward, blah, blah, blah. Then you can have a bit like a more customized handout might be welcome. So in this sense, you would need 2 different CVs. And then the relevance, of course, is important. So this one, just from like personal experience, foreign education does not speak to recruiters, regardless if they are Finnish or foreign. I'm sorry to say, but half the time I don't understand the education, like what people exactly have and which university and such. And then also the foreign companies, they don't say much. So you have to adapt your CV in a way that you are not lying, but at the same time, you're keeping it simple for the recruiter. For instance, my French degree, the official name is Diplôme universitaire de technologie en technique de commercialisation agroalimentaire, right? This is like
That's very French.
Very long. So what I put in my CV or my LinkedIn, because I haven't done a CV in a while, is just business degree. It's the truth. It's a business degree, but I don't need to put like the official name of it. Or if you have done a 4-year degree in a university, it's okay to write bachelor, even though the official name is not bachelor. I mean, it's simple enough for recruiter to understand, and it's very unlikely that anybody will ask your diploma anyway. Yeah. Same for the foreign companies. I mean, 3 months experience in small company that nobody has heard of is not maybe the best. So you can also bundle those up and say that you have had experience for X number of years in a number of accounting related companies or marketing related companies. That's also fine, because otherwise we have no idea like what industry it is or this kind of stuff. So make it simple for the recruiter. And then if you don't have like a lot of experience, it's more than fine to put the cleaning jobs and the summer jobs and the internships and all of that. Put it from an angle of what you have learned or what you have contributed. I think in any job, you learn something. I was serving burgers in a McDonald's, and I learned about, you know, being punctual, having a service mindset, executing orders, working under pressure. So these kind of things are important because they tell a lot about you. It doesn't matter if it was flipping burgers or cleaning or whatever. It's about what skills you have gained from that job. There is no under job, in my view. Everybody's job is important and everybody learns something in the job. So play on those skills and don't be ashamed ever of what jobs you have done. And then the last point may be about doing CV videos. It's nice to put them as a link in the CV, even though it's not asked. It's nice to see the person and, you know, how they speak and how they present themselves.
Thanks. And we have questions here about the CVs. You mentioned that it's okay to bundle experiences that are less significant or important, but also there's a question here from Erica. If you only highlight relevant experiences, is it okay to show gaps in working years?
Yes, absolutely. So definitely, like, there is nothing worse for me than reading about experiences in CVs that are not relevant to the job that the people is applying to. Unless it's the case again of those who don't have enough experience, so they really need to, like, you know, put everything that they have done. So yeah, it's absolutely fine. And then you can just put a line item at the bottom that says, or for me at least, I've seen that in CVs and I think it's very clever. You just write, you know, year XXXX. I was working in this kind of field or that kind of industry, or I was on a study leave or maternity leave or things like that. I mean, it's also okay to be on maternity leaves, by the way. People often ask the question that, should I put in the CV that I was on maternity leave? Well, you're not going to be ashamed that you're a mother. So yes, you can put it there. That's a pretty good explanation not to be working. So in that sense, yeah, just keep the sort of like top line, relevant to the job. And then just have a small bottom line explaining that what's the reasons then for the gaps. I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. And then there's another question that I was thinking about in connection with the LinkedIn part that you just mentioned earlier, because it's possible to download your CV
yes.
From the LinkedIn. What do you think about that? Like, should it be modified, used, or in what way would you like, as I see on you, like, not a great idea, maybe?
I'm not a fan personally. Yeah, I'm not a fan.
From there, like, what would you add or remove, or in what sense do you think you can use that as maybe a basis where to start from, and then to start turning into a more outstanding CV?
I don't know. To be honest, I haven't seen any in the 500 or 600 applications I have received that I mentioned. So I'm not really a fan of it. I tried it once myself out of curiosity to see how it was looking like. I think it's very important to have a different message in the CV in the cover letter and in the LinkedIn. They have 3 different purposes. So
wow. Well, that's great. Could you somehow like give like the idea, what is the message in LinkedIn, what is the message in CV, and what is the message sort of as an idea, just to keep that in mind?
Well, I mean, Marina will open up about the cover letter in a minute, so I'm not going to open up about that. But I think like Marina said, this LinkedIn is really like a window into your world. You will have your featured events or articles, you have your experiences, your skills, your recommendations and such. And I think it's a lot about telling about who you are and such. So I don't think like just pressing the button and getting a CV out of it is really the right thing. So for me, it's really an online media. It's not really a formal written kind of like a format. So I'm
in your world, presenting you and your world.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's not to be confused. But speaking of cover letters, so, we've been debating a lot with Marina about these, bad cover letters that we have seen coming to our desks, and I think she had a lot of great points and that I recognize in the applications. And I gave her a challenge as a joke that I say, hey, why don't you write a cover letter for one of my jobs that I was opening in my team? Like, how would that actually look like? And that was the best cover letter I've ever read in my life. I swear to God. So I asked her to talk about it today because I think it's really good. Maybe it's unconventional for other hiring managers, but for me, I thought it was brilliant. So Marina, maybe you can share about that.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that story. I love the story, and I'm super eager to hear about that. There's just one more question precisely about the CV part. Can I ask that before, Marina, you jump in to this interesting topic? There's Christina asking, how important is it in your view to have personal details such as age and also a picture on your CV?
Totally irrelevant. For me personally, as a hiring manager, I don't care. I don't even look. I mean, okay, the picture, yes, in that sense, like if you have a very unprofessional picture, it's like a detriment. But if there is no picture at all, I don't care.
Okay.
But in LinkedIn, of course, like, because then I go check the LinkedIn profile, it's a bit awkward not to have a picture on LinkedIn. So you do end up anyway seeing the picture. Yeah. But otherwise, like we don't look like that in Kone. We don't look at those things. Yeah. And I take pride also into not looking at those things.
Yeah, okay. And then quick, just can you direct people somewhere? I wanted to have more information about adapting the CV for ATS.
Like I said, we don't use this, so I'm not an expert. It might be a good question to park for the expert that you will have on the 11th of December. But I know if you search ATS compatibility, you will have a lot of information on the internet.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. There is even a test. You can upload your CV and it will tell you if it's ATS compatible or not.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So now, Marina, please tell us about that cover letter. I'm like waiting to see what that is.
Okay, and I just want to say thank Caroline for the feedback. It was very nice because, let's put it this way, in Finland you don't often receive feedback. So even though I was invited in the past with a similar template of my cover letter, like no one really kind of said anything. So it's nice, to kind of get that external validation from time to time. But so as I mentioned, I have a marketing degree, and if that's one thing that my marketing degree taught me, that you have people at hello when you're writing, I don't know, marketing copy or whatever. And let's put it this way, I know that some of you might think like, geez, I hate selling myself. I don't want to sell myself. I just want people to kind of like know who I am. So how I do come off as a non-seller, like, I don't even know, like kind of like not bragging, not kind of like blah, 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 giving you the right exact answer. So I would say that first of all, it's very important to know your talents and kind of like be proud of yourself because of your talents, because then you will exactly know what is it you're good at and what the company is looking for. It will come more naturally to you. And also we talked about like in LinkedIn and in CV that it's better to connect like your motto to a bigger purpose. So again, so it doesn't like come fake to you as a personal brand. And when it comes to like kind of like nail the lead and have them at hello, what I'm talking about is that you present right away, like why you. So we just took that kind of like sample paragraph from the cover letters that, like sample cover letters that I wrote for the like program manager position. So basically what I did, so I didn't just decided that those are exactly like random things I'm going to talk about. I asked Caroline to show me the job description. So I always advise anyone, like any of my friends or who asks me, to really work with job description. So I really kind of studied what they're looking for, and also knowing that Caroline, particularly as a hiring manager, is very much proud of the company where she works for, and she really wants kind of job applicants to connect with that culture. I studied what values of Kone will be, what values of Kone are and how can I incorporate them. And then to make it like very memorable, I remembered myself, I always been a very active kid. So I remember how my parents were trying to catch me from lifts and escalators because, you know, they were moving and, you know, for a kid, it was super good. And I thought like, okay, so I'll connect something personal, but at the same time, I will kind of like project the hiring managers that I really know that this is a company what I want to work for. So I, for example, mentioned that I always felt safe because that's one of the, as I mentioned, like Kone values. By the way, sorry if I'm going into too much detail, but I just want people to understand kind of like the process, because I used to hate cover letters, and I don't blame anyone that anyone hates cover letters, because we're not taught how to like write them, and we often do not understand what's required. So the cover letters that I've seen of my network or from mentoring program, literally every sentence starts with I. And you have to understand, which brings me to the next point, the cover letter is not about you, it's about them. It is about you, but again, it's about how you connect with them through some things that you do very well and with your relevant experience. And that's why, for example, in my opinion, the first paragraph always not only needs to nail the lead and have people at hello, but always needs to be employer focused. Not that I want to work at Kone because you're awesome, but because, you know, like you're awesome and oh, I happen to be the perfect candidate and let me explain you how, like below. Then the third point, like shows them the value. So basically it kind of like show, don't tell. So I would really advise everyone not to say, oh, I'm very good for this role because I'm very team oriented. I have great communication skills. And I don't know, I work very well under pressure. Of course, you can say those things, but I think that examples are very powerful. And often I would advise, again, study the job description. Identify what are the hard skills that are required for this position. So for example, in Caroline's job, if I remember correctly, it was like program management, project management. So I highlighted those skills that I have them right away. And I wrote clear examples, like why am I qualified exactly in those areas. And then I also told a bit about myself, because like to avoid laundry list that Caroline advised us all not to use to. So for example, I just highlighted who am I. Like, for example, a lot of people since my childhood always call me a cheerleader. So I brought that thing up, that I'm very like chatty, cheerful person. So that Caroline as a hiring manager gets an image of me, like what it is like to work with me. Not like that I can do the job, but that I actually will be very enjoyable like person kind of every day. Because I think like often what we don't realize that we are judged based on like ability in a way, that hiring manager not only assesses, can you do the job, but they assess like, can he or she work with me side by side, like every day? Can I actually tolerate him? I think we often like really forget that. And last but not least, maybe that's kind of like no-brainer to me, but what I see also all the time, Caroline also can comment like what she sees, but it's really not a big work to address it to a real person. Please do not write dear hiring manager, like, or dear sir or madam, or was it like to whom it may concern. I think it right away shows that you're a bit like out of practice, like with writing cover letters. And at the same time, remember, you know, person does not want to feel not special, because remember what Caroline said, companies want people who want them. So also make it very personal. Yeah. Next slide was fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also, yeah.
Yeah, and thanks. And here's a question also around that. There was a question from Zhao asking, is it good to show emotional feeling in the cover letter, or should write in a very calm tongue? And then there's another, yeah, and another sort of comment in that way as well. Like, I love this, but I doubt every recruiter is as open-minded as Caroline. But then again, maybe I don't want to work in a company with without open-minded people. But people are like wondering, is it okay to be this open and personal about it?
Okay, I'll answer the first question. So was it that like to show emotions instead of being calm?
Yeah,
I think like my advice, yeah. I'll answer that first, and then like about open-mindedness. So like about emotions, you know, you don't need to put exclamation marks. You know, this is not like how you convey that you're emotional, like kind of like excited about the opportunity. I know that English for most of us is not native language, but you can always kind of like study, you know, the special words that make your communication very powerful. So, because, you know, like people will see that, you know, you use words in a very smart way, so they will know that you're like intrigued or things like that, like excited, thrilled, and then just show exactly what you're, how can I say, like interested about. I think that's much better than just being emotional. So yes, I believe, like to sum it up, you can stay professional and very much like, how can I say, yourself. And then what brings me to the next question. I understand. I actually was very much afraid when I kind of like started changing my approach in my cover letters. I said like, oh my God, people will think I'm just like blah, 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 you know, like just chit-chatting, you know, bubbling. But you know what? You do not want to work with people who do not value who you really are. Of course, if you want to work in a very ultra corporate environment, don't go very like informal and very kind of like conversational style. Do that a bit of kind of like professional, what they require. But of course, if you do not want to work in a very corporate environment, if you work kind of like 50-50, I definitely advise you to show the character, because what we're kind of trying to convey here with Caroline, like a biggest failure you can do as a candidate at any stage, in my opinion, is not to stand out. Yeah. Hope that answers your question. And I mean, please, like to anyone, do not get discouraged if someone is not open-minded. You will find your tribe.
Yeah.
Just keep looking.
Thank you for that. And then there's also a specific, like a question, more specific question when it comes to language. If the job ad, from Savita, if the job ad requires fluent Finnish and English, in which language do I send the CV and cover letter? Is it okay to send, say, for example, CV in English and cover letter in Finnish to show that I'm comfortable in both languages? Or what would you women recommend here?
I will also ask Caroline, like I'll say kind of like my job seeker experience, because I'm always testing things out. Like, so I would say, again, I would look, first of all, at the job description, in what language is it written? So you can kind of like mirror them in that way. If you're still not sure, if you still have doubts, in my opinion, do contact hiring manager and say that, for example, like, I'm not so sure in what language would you prefer? Which language is more important for me to kind of demonstrate the fluency in? That's what I would recommend. And then last but not least, I would not send CV in one language and cover letter in one language. I would say kind of like, it's better to stay consistent, because they can, if they're interested, they will always invite you to interview and they will test your English or Finnish abilities there.
Yeah, I agree
with
everything Marina
what
said.
Caroline thinks.
No, I agree with everything you said. So I think no need for additional comments from my side.
Yeah, okay, thanks. And then one question, when applying for a technical position, should the term used in the cover be technical, or should I approach it in a simpler manner?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's, again, maybe good to ask, unless it's very obvious who is going to read the cover letter. So for instance, if it's a hiring manager, then you can go technical, but if it's going to go to HR, then probably they're not going to understand anything you say. So it might be good to ask. But I would say when in doubt, don't make it too technical. Just try to find a way to demonstrate that you have the knowledge. You know, I'm very passionate about, you know, quantum physics, whatever. You don't need to start writing quantum physics words. I think people will get the point. And then also based on your education and CV, we can figure out, like, are you technical or not? So I would maybe leave the more technical things to the CV in that sense, in the skill section of the CV.
Yeah,
okay. I agree with you, Caroline. And I think, you know, we often forget, like as applicants, let's put it this way, that it's not the hiring manager right away who's going to read your CV or cover letter. It might be human resources, and human resources assess your application from a completely different point of view than hiring manager. You know, they do not have that necessarily that, how to say, immediate expertise. So you need to keep that in mind. So it's good that you brought it up.
Yeah, and then one more question here about, because you spoke in this application letter part about making it fit the job offering, the job description, job offer description. What about if you're writing a cover letter, an application letter, and you're just like writing them because you have identified them as like, this is where I want to apply, and this is where I want to send in my thing, but there's not really a job offer. Do you recommend
like this kind of like työ kuvaus, like no job description, right?
Yeah.
Like yeah, okay. Well, let's put this way. I like how I would do it. I haven't done it like a lot in the past. I mean, I don't, and by the way, this is a very good way like to kind of show the world that you exist. And with a killer cover letter, I think you can really differentiate yourself. So what I would do is that I would maybe talk first to a couple of people. Remember, Caroline showed that kind of like a template who contacted her. You kind of collect the intel from the company people, you know, what kind of like challenges are they facing? And what you as a specialist, for example, in marketing or sales, I don't know, like project management, can really help them with. Because remember that companies don't hire for fun. They hire for very specific reasons. If not for the positions, they still need to solve like some challenges. And then I would also, like Caroline said, like target the companies and like research. So besides like Intel, just kind of study, you know, the business acumen, just Google and see what's happening in the industry, in the company. Maybe they have received some, I don't know, big funding and they're gonna really, you know, like bring on many projects, or maybe they are going through layoffs, which you will understand it's not like really the best time. But I think it is always better to try, because remember, you know, you miss, like, was it like all shots you don't take or something like that. So yeah, I think it's a very bold approach, and like totally whoever asks that question, go for it. Just kind of be mindful with all that intel that you can collect. Yeah.
Do you, Caroline, have something to add to that, or?
No, in that sense, just a bit worried about the time. So I think we need to move on from the cover letter now. If we want to cover
that's okay. I think, you know, like anyone more or less recognize like don'ts, and that kind of like don't really, you know, let your thought to really run away. Like just want to last advice, but not least, like be very strategic with every sentence you put on that page. Like, does it add value to the hiring manager? If not, just drop it, because it's kind of like populating universe with that, you know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And personally, as a hiring manager, if there is no cover letter, there is a very little chance that I'm actually going to read your CV. So, you know, I need you to make the time to make the application. Sorry, I know not everybody agrees, but that's my view at least. All right. Now is the time where you have everything ready. Your LinkedIn is fabulous. You've started to do your networking. You've got your CV ready. You've got your cover letters ready. Ask for a friend or mentor to review it. That cannot hurt. Especially again, leverage the network. If you know somebody in that company or other companies that can help you to review the application, that really helps, or that are in this kind of similar job you aspire to be in. And then don't be too quick to press the send button. When I get applications the same day as I open the job, they are usually the ones that will not get an interview because they were done in a rush. It's just a copy-pasted cover letter in CV. And again, for me, it doesn't tick my clock. You know, if it was a developer or some other type of job in a startup, I don't say, it's purely maybe about skills. But when we are hiring people in corporate world, at least for me, that doesn't work. Then the call. Once you've applied, do the call. I wish somebody would have told me that when I came to Finland, started for the job after the university, because nobody did. So call. Whenever you can figure out how to call. Prepare an elevator pitch. There is also very good videos on YouTube, how to do a 30-second elevator pitch. It's relatively easy. Enunciate your first name. Why I'm saying this, because I get so many calls where the person is so eager to, you know, tell the pitch that I don't even understand like what's their name, which can make it difficult for me to find them later. So oftentimes I say, can you spell your name again? Or because I don't want to miss, I will for sure go and check the application if the person has called and if there is a cover letter. You know, make it easy also for the hiring manager, especially with foreign names, it can be quite difficult. Ask questions about the role and the team, but the things that are basically not already in the advertisement. Don't ask questions about things which are already stated in the ad. That's not very nice. And then ask questions about the recruitment. So when, who, what, for instance. If there's no number, like I said, try to figure out other ways to contact that person or use your network.
Yeah, and here's a question also coming in from Lisa, like if you don't, well, yeah, that was if you don't know who reads the cover letter, okay, how would you start the letter? Straight to the point, or what would you say in the beginning?
That was for the cover letter part.
Okay.
Yes.
Caroline, do you want to answer?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I just will be very quick. You can always go safe and say, dear team. or dear, for example, I don't know, whatever that team is, just Google on LinkedIn, like what, how to say, where that role might belong, to what team in the company, and then just put that team.
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
I don't know, you can always address it also to HR person at the company, because I think it's so much better to have a name or, you know, some personalization instead of just to whom it may concern.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And then for the call, there was this question, what kind of questions do you ask when you call the person who posted the vacancy in the allocated time to show your interest? You said when, who, and what here, for example, but do you have one other question or something that you could give as a practical?
Yeah, again, I think about the role and the team. For me, I always like it when people ask, how big is the team? What kind of diversity do you have in the team? What people you have? Because they are projecting themselves in the role. And let's face it, I mean, we are not hiring robots with skill sets, right? So we are hiring human beings who we need to integrate to our existing team and our existing working environment. So I always find it nice when people ask, you know, if I'm getting this job, who am I going to work with? Is it international? Is there like a, you know, is everybody in the same location? These kind of questions I think are always nice, and it's very rarely told in the advertisement.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an easy one to pick up on. Because
okay, thank you.
Sure. Then about the interview, I'm gonna be very quick. Show enthusiasm for the company. I think we've said it enough. Talk about who you are, not what you have done. So again, it's about you, how you will integrate in the team. Maybe there will be someone with better skills than you, but they are not the right match. So it's not just about skills and education. We are human beings, we are people. We need to think like how that person integrates in the team. So don't be shy to open up. And in terms of like the emotions, I'm not saying to be emotional, but you can have emotion. I am passionate about this. I love this. Those are emotions, passion, love, or I'm anxious for the future and I want to build a better future for my children. These are things that are important, you know, that I want to work for a company that's going to make a difference. Really relate and connect to who you are as a person and why this company is the right one for you, and talk about the future, not only the past. Projection, projection, projection. You need to be in the role. When I get this role, I'm going to be doing this and that. Of course, if you get a specific question about your past, you need to answer it, but constantly try to redirect to the future, and don't be afraid to lead also in the interview. I have so many people in interviews, they're just patiently waiting for me to ask the next question. Interview should be about dialogue. It's really a two-way street where we start the working relationship. It's me doing the police interrogation for 35 minutes. So these are like quickly the one, and then sell your difference. So again, personal branding, identify where you differentiate. How to handle
that's a good reminder again about the relationship part. Like it's a two-way thing, and you're also there to check, like not to forget that you're also there to check if this could be a place where you want to work.
Yeah. Yeah, and also in that sense, like make it fun for me. Like everybody knows that when we are doing recruitments, we're probably going to do like 4 or 5 interviews in the week. So sometimes even in a day. So, you know, make it fun for me. If you're like end of the afternoon, you know, I've had a long day, like make it also entertaining. Ask me questions, like don't wait for me to just ask the next one. I think that's really important. And there's so many people where, you know, it's the perfect CV, it's the perfect cover letter very often time. And then you get to the interview point and it's like I understand the anxiety part. Not everybody's comfortable to speak, but I don't know, have a glass of schnapps or something beforehand to get loose, but you need to be like, you need to be in that zone. Otherwise it's super awkward for the hiring managers. Then I wanted to add something as the sort of like closing the loop in a way, because I think that's not talked about necessarily in that many seminars. So I thought maybe this one can be interesting. So how to handle the rejection or the silent treatment. Again, send hundreds of CVs, so been there, done that. Number one, ask for feedback. I know culturally in Finland, it's difficult to get the feedback, but nonetheless, ask for it. Sometimes I open a job where I get 100 people applying and I get maybe 5 who are actually asking for the feedback, probably because they expect that I won't give any, but still I would say ask for it. Then if you can get access to the recruitment, either HR or then the hiring manager, ask what the candidate that got the job had that made a difference. Why I have this one here is because very often time I hear or I read people who tell me that, or who write that, I don't understand, I ticked all the boxes and I didn't get the job. The challenge is that there's so much highly skilled and experienced people in Finland that probably 80% on paper actually fit the bill and could do the job. So oftentimes it's not so much about what you didn't have, it's about what somebody else had on top. So that's also something to remember, that it's not like you were rejected because you didn't fit the bill. It probably you do, but then somebody else had that extra something, which probably comes back to everything we've said in the hour, that, you know, kick-ass LinkedIn, great connections, commenting on everything, knowing the company by heart, blah, blah, blah. Ask yourself if you did put all the chances on your side. So do a post-mortem, especially when it's the company that is in your target list. So try to figure out, why didn't I get it? Did I really do all the steps? Did I really do that cover letter in the right way, and so on? So once the emotion of not getting the job comes down, then do that. I think it's very important. Again, if you've done the work and if you've done the network and you've got your insiders in all those target companies, try to figure out what went wrong. Usually they will get information that you don't have. Could be that, you know, the other person was a better match for that team, the way that the team operates, about personalities, you know, clashing, not clashing, whatnot. Probably, again, nothing to do with your skills or education. And if you don't have access to any feedback or the insider or anything else, try to track on LinkedIn a couple of months later who actually has got the job and what kind of profile there is. I know many people often, they say that very frustratingly that, oh yeah, the job went to a Finnish person. Well, sorry to say, my dear international friends, but we are in Finland, so it's also okay that jobs are going to Finnish people. Oftentimes the language is not the only differentiator. There's going to be something else. Either they have a network in the industry or they have something that will create that differentiation element. So don't always kind of feel like, oh, well, of course it went to Finnish person. It might not only be that, so be careful about that. And then dare to blacklist hiring managers or companies. So if you have been in a recruitment process and you have been mishandled, typical example, Finnish is not required. You spend the whole process, you know, going through, and at the end of the day, they say, well, by the way, actually Finnish is required. You don't want to work for these companies. I still understand you need to put food on the table, but personally, I would put them out. So
Yeah.
lot of content I know to digest, but we wanted to go through, like, you know, this kind of like end-to-end process, and in a way, like, persistence is the key. I know we don't have a whole lot of time for questions, but at least I'm happy to hang out on the line after we stop the recording if somebody wants to have further discussions. But I think, Henrika, maybe you still have time for questions.
And I actually have, well, I have like one question came in here. Is it true that in Finland some positions are posted with already having someone in mind? I was told that you can ask that directly in the interview.
Yes, it's true. And in that sense, I think there is nothing wrong about it. You might think every now and then that, you know, well, this person might do it, but I'm not 100% sure, so I want to see what's out there. And you do end up sometimes taking that person to begin with because nobody better came, or you will hire someone else. So yeah, it's a practice. I don't think there's anything to be shameful about. I don't know if all the companies do it, but I think many companies do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the last question I absolutely do want to cover before the recording is ended and some people might leave is a question that came in about the best way to negotiate the best possible salary for yourself. And so the question said, what to do if the company asks your number?
Yeah.
And they had A, give the real, B, say something higher that might scare off, C, not answer and ask them to give example of their salary range for the position, or D, say something real smart.
Yeah, so in the context of
your perspective on this one about the salary thing.
Yeah, I think from the corporate perspective, I don't pay too much attention to this one. I mean, 90% of the applications I get don't have a salary expectation, and I don't personally mind, but I think that generally speaking, when you're asked to do something, it's good to do it. So don't totally ignore it. I'm probably an exception in this context. But I think there's a lot of resources. So one, for instance, is Meet, M-E-E-T, Frank. There's a report every month that compares salaries in Finland. Interestingly enough, in their last report, they had shown that there was a gap between what people ask and what they were offered in the end, meaning that people were asking less than what the company was ready to offer. And my experience in this case is the same. Every single job I have recruited for in Kone, people always that got the job ask less than what we were prepared to give. My philosophy is that if you want to start a long-lasting relationship, you might start it on a good foot. So I usually give what I plan, not what they ask. So don't be too scared also about asking that you are worried that you will ask less, because I would like to think that a hiring manager who has a little bit of common sense would actually give you what is intended. To kind of start on a good, on a good note. It's always nice for someone to be like, okay, I got the job and I got more money than I expected. So
yes.
Also avoids the salary raise discussion 12 months later. And then there is stat.fi, which has also actually comparative figures. You can ask your unions. In Finland, you can also ask the tax office for other people's salary. So if you know somebody who is in similar position, you can ask from tax office to know what these persons are earning. I'm not a huge fan of this one, but okay, that's one way to get there as well.
Yeah, cool. Those are really valuable insights. And there's another question here from Donna. If a company asked salary expectation, should they be prepared to share the range in a phone call or the interview?
It's a great question, Donna. Thank you for asking. In my humble personal opinion, we should give a range. In the reality of things, we are not. I think it's a practice. I don't know if it's only in Finland because I haven't worked really anywhere else, but that's at least what I have observed. And I would prefer to tell people a range, but that's not the process or the culture here. So I don't know if you ask, you would probably not be told.
Yeah. And so we're actually, it's 1 minute past 6 now already. So
Do you want me to?
We managed to cover the important issues here, but just you can take a screenshot of Mothers in Business coming events. We have the Bravely in Finnish conversations, and the stroller walks in Helsinki and Tampere are for the moment stopped due to the corona restrictions, of course, because they affect everything, but we do have those generally once a month. And then we have on the 11th, on the same topic, 11th of December, we have a mingle with a CV clinic. So that's another place to come if you want to go more into the details of the CV. And then language cafe, where you can come and practice different languages and speak and network with other international mothers and women. And then in January, we will have webinars about self-leadership and about mindfulness and meditation as a source of balance in your work life. And all of these events are free of charge and open for everyone. So welcome. And yeah, and then we just have the contact information there where you can find us. Also take a screenshot you can take of that. And then we have our thank you slide where we thank everybody for coming for this joint event co-organized with MIB International and International Working Women of Finland. Thank you everybody for being here. I would have loved to continue the conversation and to just ask even more questions about all of this, and of you ladies who have both the hiring and the applying perspective. Thank you, Marina. It was super interesting to also hear your experience, and thank you so much, Caroline, for like taking us through the whole arch of preparation and during, and then also taking the afterwards. How to call back, deal with even the fallbacks and the emotional part, and then how to learn from that. So I think that's a great arch, and there's a lot of thanks yous and appreciation and insightful session messages coming in from everybody. So thank you. We're already 3 minutes past, and I like to keep the hour precise. So I think we'll leave it to this today. And maybe there will be other things coming in the future, but we really enjoyed talking to you and learning from you. So thank you, everybody.